Welcome to Overtime Stories. If you're new here, take a moment to subscribe and join the journey. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and every bit of support truly means a lot.
The Browns' loss to the Chicago Bears didn't just sting, it cracked something open inside the locker room, and Myles Garrett wasn't trying to hide it. As sources claim, the frustration that boiled over after the final whistle had been building for weeks, not just one ugly afternoon. Cleveland walked into that game expecting control, discipline, and identity, and walked out looking disorganized, predictable, and flat. Garrett, the emotional backbone of the defense, reportedly made it clear that the team's effort on the field didn't match the expectations preached all week. This wasn't a quiet disagreement. This was a leader snapping after watching the same mistakes repeat with no visible correction. Sources close to the situation say Garrett's frustration wasn't about losing alone. It was about wasting opportunities. The defense held its ground early, made stops, created chances, but the offense kept handing momentum right back. That cycle drains even elite units. Garrett reportedly questioned why adjustments came late, why energy dipped, and why accountability always seemed to land on players instead of the sideline. That's where Kevin Stefanski entered the spotlight. The Bears exposed Cleveland with basic looks, daring the Browns to adapt, and adaptation never came. Garrett's body language said everything before words even followed. Cameras caught him pacing, jaw tight, helmet off, watching drives die the same way over and over. As sources claim, Garrett's post-game tone was sharper than usual, less diplomatic, more direct. When leaders reach that point, it's not for show. It's because silence stopped working. Cleveland fans felt it too. Social media erupted with clips, breakdowns, and reactions pointing out how the Bears outcoached the Browns in simple, fundamental ways. Garrett became the voice of that frustration. This wasn't about ego or spotlight, it was about standards. Garrett plays every snap like it matters, and watching the team drift into confusion struck a nerve. The loss wasn't just embarrassing on the scoreboard, it was embarrassing in execution. That's what pushed this from disappointment into confrontation. When your best player starts questioning direction, it's never just noise. It's a warning.
Sorry to interrupt, but hit that subscribe button real quick. It really helps the channel grow.
As the dust settled, more details leaked about what actually happened behind the scenes, and the picture got even uglier. As sources claim, Garrett didn't just vent emotionally, he laid out specific issues that had been brewing quietly. Missed assignments, slow play calling, repeated situations where the defense was forced back on the field with no rest. Those things add up. The Bears didn't overwhelm Cleveland with talent. They overwhelmed them with preparation. That's the part that hurt most. Garrett reportedly emphasized that the defense had done its job early, creating pressure, limiting explosive plays, and giving the offense chances to take control. Instead, those chances evaporated. Stefanski's play sequencing became a focal point. Analysts later echoed what Garrett was feeling in real time: predictable formations, delayed adjustments, and a refusal to lean into what was working. As sources claim, Garrett questioned why urgency only appeared after the game slipped away. That's not leadership football, that's reactive football. Teammates reportedly backed Garrett quietly, nodding along during post-game discussions. No one said it publicly, but the vibe was clear. This wasn't a one-man complaint, it was a shared exhaustion. Veterans on defense know when windows are closing. They know when effort is being wasted. Garrett's outburst symbolized that fear. Cleveland's defense has championship-level talent. Talent without direction goes nowhere. The Bears' loss felt like proof. Stefanski defenders argued that execution failed, not coaching, but Garrett's stance challenges that narrative. Execution is shaped by clarity. Clarity starts at the top. If players look confused, it's not because they forgot football, it's because the message didn't land. As sources claim, the frustration hit a tipping point because similar conversations had already happened internally. The loss just made it impossible to ignore. Garrett didn't call anyone out by name, but everyone knew who the comments were aimed at. When leaders speak indirectly, it's often louder than direct shots. This wasn't about disrespect, it was about accountability. And accountability is uncomfortable when it points upward. National reaction poured gasoline on the fire, turning a locker room issue into a full-blown storyline. As sources claim, analysts quickly aligned Garrett's frustration with broader concerns about Stefanski's leadership style. Calm and composed only works when results follow. When losses pile up, calm starts to look detached. That perception is deadly. Garrett's comments reframed the Bears' loss as more than a bad game. It became evidence of systemic stagnation. Film breakdowns highlighted moments where the Browns failed to counter simple defensive looks, failed to adjust tempo, and failed to protect momentum. Garrett's defense did everything it could, but football isn't played in isolation. Analysts praised Garrett for saying what many players can't. Superstars rarely risk rocking the boat unless they feel the boat is already leaking. As sources claim, Cleveland's front office took note immediately. When your franchise cornerstone speaks, you listen. Garrett isn't known for drama. That's why this hit harder. The locker room response reportedly stayed respectful but tense. Everyone understands what's at stake. Coaches feel pressure. Players feel urgency. The Bears' loss accelerated timelines. What might have been brushed off earlier now feels magnified. Garrett's message was simple. Effort without direction is wasted energy. That message resonates across the league. Other teams have lived this movie. Some adjust, some implode. Cleveland now stands at that fork. Stefanski's next moves will be watched closely, not just by fans, but by his own leaders. Garrett's frustration wasn't destructive, it was declarative. A line was drawn. The season didn't end in Chicago, but something changed there. When your best defender questions the process has to respond. Inside the Browns organization, the Bears' loss is now being treated as a stress fracture, not a bruise. As sources claim, leadership meetings intensified immediately after Garrett's comments went public because when a player of that stature speaks out, it forces action. This wasn't brushed off as post-game emotion. It was logged, replayed, and dissected. Garrett isn't just a captain, he's the standard. When the standard questions direction, front offices pay attention. Sources say the biggest concern wasn't the words themselves, but how many players silently agreed. Silence can be louder than outrage. Coaches reportedly felt the shift instantly. Practice energy changed, conversations tightened, accountability language sharpened. That usually means pressure is real. Stefanski's system, once praised for balance and intelligence, is now under a microscope. Analysts point out that the Bears didn't outsmart Cleveland with trickery. They won with discipline, clarity, and timely adjustments. That's damning. Garrett's frustration highlighted the growing gap between preparation and performance. Defenders can only hold the line for so long before fatigue turns mental. Repeated 3-and-outs don't just hurt field position, they hurt belief. As sources claim, Garrett questioned why the team seemed unprepared for obvious counters, why the offense stayed rigid while the game slipped away. Rigid systems break under pressure. That's not a secret in the NFL. The Browns' internal messaging now emphasizes urgency, but urgency after embarrassment feels late. Garrett's outburst wasn't about ego or power. It was about wasting a defense built to dominate. When elite defenders feel like their work is being undone, resentment grows fast. Cleveland has lived through locker rooms like that before. The difference now is leadership is aware early. The Bears' loss didn't just hurt the standings, it challenged credibility. Stefanski's calm demeanor is now being tested against results. Calm without correction looks like denial. Garrett forced the issue into the open. Whether the staff adapts or resists will determine how far this goes. The warning has been issued. What happens next decides whether this was a turning point or the beginning of a breakdown. This moment now sits at the center of Cleveland's season, and there's no hiding from it anymore. As sources claim, players are watching closely to see how the coaching staff responds, not with speeches, but with change. Adjustments matter. Accountability matters. Transparency matters. Garrett didn't ask for perfection. He demanded clarity. That's reasonable. Elite players don't expect to win every game. They expect to compete intelligently. The Bears' loss failed that test. Analysts across the league agree this wasn't about talent gaps. It was about preparation gaps. Garrett became the symbol of that realization. His comments reframed the narrative from player failure to leadership evaluation. That's a dangerous shift for any head coach. Stefanski still has supporters, and some argue context deserves patience. That debate exists, but debates change when locker room leaders speak. When frustration becomes public, trust is already strained. The Browns now face a choice: evolve quickly or risk internal fracture. History shows that ignoring voices like Garrett's rarely ends well. This isn't about drama, it's about direction. Championship teams course correct early. Others spiral. The Bears' loss created a moment of truth. Garrett forced it into the light. Cleveland can't afford to waste another season learning the same lesson. The defense is ready. The roster is capable. What's missing is alignment. Alignment starts at the top. The league is watching how Cleveland responds because situations like this reveal organizational character. Garrett didn't blow up to embarrass anyone. He did it because silence wasn't working. That's leadership under pressure. Whether that leadership is matched by the sideline will define the rest of the year. The fallout from Myles Garrett speaking up is still spreading, and now the real test begins behind closed doors. As sources claim, the days following the Bears' loss have felt heavier inside the Browns facility, not louder. That silence matters. When players stop venting and start watching, leadership is officially on trial. Garrett's comments didn't just challenge Kevin Stefanski's game plan, they challenged the entire command structure of the team. Every meeting, every install, every rep is now being judged through a new lens. Is this actually fixing the problem, or just dressing it up? Veterans reportedly aren't looking for motivational speeches. They want evidence. Evidence that lessons were learned, evidence that mistakes won't be repeated, evidence that effort on the field won't be wasted again. As sources claim, the coaching staff knows credibility is fragile right now. One more game where adjustments come too late or urgency feels artificial could snap that thread completely. What makes this moment dangerous is that the Browns aren't dealing with chaos from fringe players or bench guys. This came from the face of the defense. The guy who plays through pain, commands double teams, and still shows up every Sunday. When that player questions direction, younger players follow his lead silently. That's how locker rooms shift. No shouting, no rebellion. Just belief draining out. Garrett's frustration also changed how external voices view the Browns. Opposing teams smell vulnerability. Analysts smell pressure. Front offices smell decision points coming sooner than planned. As sources claim, Cleveland's leadership understands that allowing this tension to linger is far worse than addressing it directly. Unchecked frustration becomes resentment. Resentment kills seasons. There's also a legacy factor at play. Garrett isn't just fighting for wins this year. He's fighting for his prime. Elite defenders don't get endless chances at contention. Wasting those years with unclear direction is the fastest way to lose buy-in. That urgency fueled his reaction. It wasn't reckless, it was calculated honesty. The Bears' loss embarrassed the Browns on the scoreboard, but the bigger embarrassment would be pretending everything is fine afterward. Garrett refused to do that. Now the spotlight stays on the sideline. Stefanski's response in the coming weeks will matter more than any press conference. Adjustments have to be visible. Accountability has to be real. Trust has to be rebuilt in actions, not words. This chapter of the season is no longer about scheme diagrams or play sheets. It's about leadership alignment. The Browns have the talent to compete. That's not in question. What's in question is whether the structure above that talent is flexible enough to respond when leaders demand better. Garrett drew the line publicly. The next moves will determine whether Cleveland steps forward together or continues pulling in opposite directions. The league has seen this moment before. Some teams grow from it. Others collapse under it. The difference is always how leadership answers the challenge when its own stars stop whispering and start speaking out. This story isn't over. It's just reached the phase where actions matter more than words. Like the video, subscribe for more deep dives, and stay locked in as this Browns situation continues to unfold in real time.